For most of history, female healthcare has been less about healing and more about control, less a practice of compassion, and more a reflection of fear, ignorance, and power. In ancient times, women's bodies were mysteries wrapped in superstition. Menstruation was seen as impure, childbirth as punishment, and female sexuality as something to suppress. The earliest records from Mesopotamia and Egypt show that women's ailments were treated with herbs, spells, or prayers to goddesses. But by the time Greek philosophy merged with medicine, the tone darkened. The great Hippocrates, father of modern medicine, helped spread the idea that the womb was a wandering organ, roaming freely through the female body, causing illness and madness. This wandering womb myth persisted for over 1,000 years, justifying countless barbaric treatments like forced sex, fumigations, and the denial of autonomy. During the Middle Ages, women who healed, midwives, herbalists, wise women, were often accused of witchcraft. Their knowledge of the body and birth made them powerful, and that power made them dangerous. When male physicians sought to professionalize medicine, they discredited and even executed the very women who had carried generations of medical knowledge. The rise of the church compounded the problem, linking the female body to sin. Women were told that pain in childbirth was a divine punishment, and any attempt to relieve it was an affront to God. In 1591, a Scottish woman named Euphemie Macagliane was burned at the stake for daring to use pain relief during childbirth. The Enlightenment, ironically, did not bring light to women's health. Though science began to advance, women were rarely part of the conversation. They were studied as curiosities, not equals. The male body was seen as the default in anatomy books, while the female body was distorted into stereotypes: weak, leaky, irrational. During the 18th and 19th centuries, hysteria became the most common diagnosis for any woman who challenged her husband, experienced trauma, or even expressed desire. The cure? Removal of the clitoris, institutionalization, forced rest cures, or in some cases, the primitive invention of the vibrator, developed not for female pleasure, but to relieve doctors from the manual labor of treating hysteria. Meanwhile, Black and enslaved women suffered even worse. In the name of science, doctors like J. Marion Sims, the so-called father of modern gynecology, performed brutal surgical experiments on enslaved women without anesthesia. Their names, Anarcha, Lucy, and Betsy, are rarely mentioned, but their suffering laid the foundation for procedures still used today. And yet, Sims was honored with statues and praise, while the women he mutilated were forgotten. Even into the 20th century, eugenics movements led to forced sterilizations of women deemed unfit, including women of color, the poor, the mentally ill, and indigenous women. In the United States alone, tens of thousands were sterilized against their will. Some were told they were getting appendectomies or cancer screenings, others were simply coerced. The pain of women was ignored in other ways too, through clinical trials that excluded them, pain medication studies done only on men, and a long-standing belief that women exaggerated their symptoms. Endometriosis, a disease that affects 1 in 10 women, still takes an average of 7 to 10 years to diagnose. Why? Because doctors are trained to normalize women's pain. They are told it's just bad periods, or stress, or in their head. For decades, birth control was tested on Puerto Rican women without consent. Women were subjected to high doses of hormones with severe side effects, vomiting, blood clots, even death, all in the name of progress. And yet, their stories were buried. In many parts of the world, female genital mutilation continues in the name of tradition, leaving millions of girls with lifelong trauma, infection, and infertility. All this while access to maternal care in developed countries remains shockingly unequal. In the US, Black women are nearly 3 times more likely to die from childbirth complications than white women. And that's not just about poverty, it's about systemic bias. Studies have shown that some doctors believe Black women feel less pain. That myth, born in slavery, still echoes in hospitals today. Meanwhile, the psychiatric field hasn't fared better. Women who were rebellious, artistic, or traumatized were often labeled insane. Famous cases like Zelda Fitzgerald or even Sylvia Plath reveal how easily women's minds were dismissed. Institutions became dumping grounds for wives, daughters, and sisters who didn't conform. Electroshock therapy, lobotomies, and tranquilizers were administered not to heal, but to silence. In the 1960s and 70s, women's health finally began to change. thanks to the feminist movement. Women demanded control over their bodies, fought for the right to contraception and abortion, and began entering medical schools themselves. Activists uncovered how the medical system neglected and abused women, from faulty breast implants to ignored heart disease symptoms. The book Our Bodies, Ourselves gave women knowledge that had been denied for centuries. And still, the battle isn't over. In modern times, issues like period poverty, abortion rights, biased medical research, and lack of female-specific care continue. For example, many drugs are still tested primarily on male bodies, even though women metabolize medicine differently. Autoimmune diseases, which affect more women than men, are underfunded. Chronic pain conditions like fibromyalgia are often brushed off. Even in 2025, women still have to fight to be heard when they say, "I'm in pain." And yet, despite all this, women have endured. They have become the healers, the doctors, the researchers, and the whistleblowers. They've reclaimed birth, fought for safe motherhood, and pioneered treatments once denied to them. The story of female healthcare is not just one of suffering, but of resilience, resistance, and revolution. It is the story of every woman who refused to be silenced by a diagnosis, who questioned the expert in the white coat, who trusted her body when the world told her not to. It is a story that reminds us, healing can only begin when the harm is finally named. And for women, that reckoning is long overdue.